Hi, this is Jo Avalon from Avalon by Nature, and welcome to another of my Cuppa Chats. And today I have with me Evie McRae. Hi, Evie. How you going?
I'm good, thanks.
That's good. We've been giggling, and we're going to try and hold it together for a few minutes until we get into the serious stuff, right? So Evie's a transformational writer, healer, and practitioner, and I'm really excited to have you come in today, or to make your cuppa and join me from your place. Where's your cuppa? You got a really good cup. That's it. All right, the witch's brew. What have you got in that cup?
Tell you.
Probably best. I've just got coffee. Yeah, cheers. Absolutely. Yes. So, I wanted to, well, look, it's always good for a laugh, and that's why I like to do these Cuppa Chats, because they give me a good laugh, and I hope that whoever's watching does the same, and we always have a good giggle. So I guess, what are we going to giggle about today? Everything's serious, but not serious. Your life. Yes. All right. So transformational writing, healing, and practitioner, against both of those. So just a wee background. I met Evie late last year at the launch of Peter Williams's book, and forged a friendship with you thereafter. And then you came and ran a couple of really cool workshops at my pop-up shop in Swansea, which was really well received. And so now I'm hearing that you're really busy with your Akashic record work, and that I'm so excited about that. Tell me about what that entails.
Well, it's quite involved, really, you know, when you get actually into the reading and the healing side of things. So basically, the Akashic records is your soul wisdom, you know, everything that ever happened, ever was, you know, every thought, every action, but it's all without judgment. So basically, in the Akashic records, you have like an imprint of everything, you know, I call it an energetic imprint. And so, you know, if you have blocks or challenges or just questions about your soul purpose, even in this life, you can consult the records. And, you know, you never consult them with a yes or no question. You know, it's always, what can I learn from this? Or what can you show me about this? And it's really quite profound, the things that you know, your soul has to show you, if you like. And so you can have healing, you know, in that space, and you can have a reading so that you've got a more sort of holistic view, I guess, if you like, about your life and the things that have happened in your life. And the point to remember is that, you know, wherever you're aligned right now, that obviously affects the future, and we have lots of outcomes, lots of pathways that we can take, and a single thought can change your future. It's that, you know, it's that simple, really.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, so it just gives you a bit of an insight into who you really are and what you're tapping into, and that you're part of something much bigger, and that you're loved, you know. And there's lots of different ways to access the records. I mean, I think my first awareness of them was when I was a teenager. I just didn't know that's what it was, you know. So yeah, so that's been keeping me very busy lately. I think everybody's, especially with stuff that's going on just now, you know, there's a big shift happening. And I think people are feeling more called now to actually understand some of the deeper truths. So.
Yes. So when you were a teenager, tell me about that.
Yeah. So that was, there was a couple of things. One, I'd had this really bizarre dream, and I always had weird dreams, and, you know, things that happened came true, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And your mind pushes it away, because you just think, oh, you know, you explain it away. But this one particular dream really stood out for me, and it was at a point when I was feeling a bit sort of fed up, a bit lost, and all the rest of it. And then I had this dream that I was on a train, and I was dressed in 1950s clothes, and everybody around me was in the same sort of gear. And I just sat down on the seat, and then this person opposite me asked if I was okay, and I just said, yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm just a bit lost. And they said, oh, but, you know, and they were telling me that I was this really loved person, and I didn't believe it. And they leant forward and they had this huge book, and they said, this is your book. And they gave it to me, and I started opening it and flicking through the pages, and it was filled with photographs. And they were all photographs of me doing things, just ordinary things, you know, and it was like someone had taken photos of me all through my life and had been there, not in a stalker way, you know. It felt really good, you know. Anyone else should have them arrested, but but this was really the feeling of love, that actually there were people or beings all around me, and even when I was on my own, you know, they were looking out for me. And this book was an example of all these times that people had been there or had been watched over, basically. So that was when I actually got into the records, you know, many years later, I recognized that that came back as an experience that was just letting me know that was there. Then when I was about, oh gosh, I'd be about 18 or whatever, and was living in a bedsit, as you do.
Yes.
And and I used to sit and write till about 3 in the morning. You know, I just, once I started writing, I'd write and write and write. And then I realized that sometimes if I came to the writing on the blank page without an idea of what it was I wanted to write, I would just sit there and kind of wait for the information to come. And if it didn't come, I'd just open it up and I'd basically ask for something to come through me. And then over time, I had these situations where I was writing and it was like download. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just like a download, just constant stream of stuff coming through. And I could hardly keep up with writing it, it was a bit different to automatic writing. You know, this was actually, I was being given this information and trying to keep up with
dictation, it. Spiritual dictation.
Yeah. And but then, you know, I'd go to bed and I'd feel, I knew that I had done a good piece of work, but then the next morning I'd wake up and I'd have no recollection of what I'd written. So when I was reading it, like the next morning, I'd go, oh my God, that's really good.
I was inspired.
Did I write that? Oh my God. So of course, you know, I like any sort of good high, you're looking for it again. And then I realized, if you force it and you have that intellectual brain come in, which a lot of what writing is, you know, that's coming in, you're forcing it. Yes, you can write, but it's a totally different kind of writing, you know, and I can write for pages and pages and pages without even thinking, you know, when I access that place. And that was one of the things that I found out through the records, that a lot of creatives access that place, and you know, that work comes through them because they have that stored information somewhere else. So and I guess at that stage I had an awareness of Akashic records, but you know, growing up in Scotland back then, you know, not giving away how old I am, but there was no mentors, nobody talking about Akashic records. This was just stuff that I'd read in books. There was nobody to ask about it, you know. It was just a case of, you know, if you mentioned anything remotely, you know, like drinking elder wine, I don't know, elderflower wine or something, that was out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, don't mention anything too boo-boo, you know.
Yeah, that's good. Disrupt the prezzo's, you know, delicacies.
Yes, exactly. So so I was on my own with a lot of that stuff. You know, I had I knew that I sensed things. I knew that I'm not one of these people that saw things, you know, but I certainly had information coming through me, and a much greater awareness that there was more out there, you know. So and then it just happened that a lot of that came through my writing. So.
And so your writing in time became your living, yeah?
Yeah. So this is another funny thing. So you know, that was my best subject at school, writing, and I loved books, loved books. My mum used to read to me, and you know, they were my happiest times when she used to read at night to me, and she'd put on all the voices, you know, so that the characters of the books came to life, and I just loved it. And I even remember learning to read. You know, she'd basically taught me to read before I went to school. But I remember having these little flashcards and tobacco tins and all that. I remember it so clearly. And it was, even then, it was a joy. You know, I love to read and write and anything to do with words. And so that sort of set me up for school. And then when I was I was mucking around a wee bit, I think. And when I was about 14 or 15, my English teacher pulled me aside and she said, you know what, you could be a really good writer if you just, you know, knuckle down and get on with the coursework sort of thing. And it changed in that instant, you know, just someone saying, look, you're good at what you do, you know, just apply yourself.
Yes.
So
we've all had a teacher tell us that at some point. You know, you could be really good.
Yes.
I'm sure they like dish it out and then they just hope that someone will take it up.
Yes. So that, I guess that actually ruined me for life, because it was like, I'm going to be a writer. But then when it came to like the career stuff, the careers officers come into school and you're sitting there going, yeah, I love writing, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, but you need a real job. And I'm thinking, writing's a real job. But, you know, in those times, you know, it just wasn't the thing. And then, I mean, I kind of went a long road for a shortcut. You know, I did go to college and I studied journalism and marketing and all the rest of it. And then so then, you know, it was a point of, yeah, you can make money out of writing, you know, but you just weren't being pushed in that direction. But yeah, my sort of biggest joy, I guess, at that point was after I graduated and I moved south down to England, and I got work in publishing, and I actually started off in marketing. And marketing, I mean, I actually got a distinction for marketing, and it was one of these things that was like, it just felt like a necessary evil, if you like. And I always wanted to use the powers for good rather than, you know, selling things. You know, that's what marketing is. So
yeah, that's it.
So I had the job of basically raising the profile and marketing about 30 international magazines. And at the time, there was a real growing interest for holistic health, complementary therapies and all the rest of it. So after a fair bit of research, we basically identified a gap in the market for this type of publication. And what we wanted to do was demystify complementary therapies so that it wasn't so out there, you know, that people could actually use things along with their traditional healthcare. So I had one of those moments, the way inspiration hits, you know, here's me, a writer working in a publisher, you know, I hadn't quite joined the dots yet, you know, because I'm in the marketing thing.
Yeah.
And I'm in the shower and I'm thinking, oh, you know, how am I going to break into, you know, writing and blah, 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 blah. And then there's just this voice like, well, you work in publishing, you know, like,
duh.
Oh yeah, and we've discovered, you know, that we're going to do this magazine, and it's all the things that I love. So duh again, you know. So I approached the editor and said, look, you know, I really love writing. I have studied, and you know, but I just kind of ended up in the marketing side of things. But I'm really keen to get into the editorial. And she said, great, well, try out. She said, write me an article, and, you know, if it's any good, then, you know, we'll get you on the team. So I was like, great. So I went away and, as I always do, like I've spoken to you before, probably about over-preparing everything.
Yep.
And then I got my sort of 2 or 3 page article. And then, and I was pretty happy with it, but because I hadn't really sort of, put myself against, people that had been in editorial for years, I just didn't know how it matched up. But basically, she came back to me and she goes, yeah, it's great. And we'd like you to join the team. And then I got the role as the deputy editor. And I was like,
wow.
Okay.
How did you do that? I don't know.
I was just in the shower moment thinking, how am I going to get into, doing what? So, so that's where it all started. And when I look back, that was, the education. It was just being the type of person I was in the perfect place, because I got to meet all walks of life, there were celebrities at the time sort of, getting into Reiki, and then Reiki was like, oh, that's a bit, as I say. So, we got to speak to people like that were helping raise the profile. And then I also had the chance to talk to people I interviewed, actually. Ian White, the guy that does the Australian bushflower remedy cards and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I interviewed him about 30 years ago, and I remember thinking, it's like a seed planted, Australia, And I just thought it was so cool, and the whole idea of using nature and everything around you and colour and blah, 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 it was just an education ground for me, learning from all those amazing practitioners and healers. And talking to people who'd benefited from those things. So that was the holistic side of things. And then it gradually, obviously, because you're talking about holistic health, it opens up the spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
And, I was just in my element then.
Yes.
So, at one stage, I remember, because we did a lot of the in-house writing, I was writing about 30 or 40 pages for the magazine every month, as well as the duties of a deputy editor. And my editor, she became a fantastic, in fact the whole team became great friends, because you're with like-minded people.
Yes.
They love the writing, but they love what we're writing about and what we're trying to do. So you're really in your passion when you're doing that sort of stuff.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's a dream job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like one from here.
I was so happy. I really was.
Yeah.
But then my husband at that time decided that, let's, go to Australia. He'd had family in Australia and he'd always had the hankering to go. And so that's kind of what happened. I ended up in Australia, and it wasn't really, the seed was planted. I always knew I wanted to travel, but I guess, I liked the idea or the notion of Australia that I had. So, and as I say, he had family, he had family here. So I was like, all right, why not? Why not move to the other side of the world?
That's right. Follow in the steps of many who've done it before me.
Exactly. So, so that's when my adventure, started over here. And I was working as, that's when the real sort of corporate side of things really stepped up, because I was working with some really big brands and, going from editorial, moving into copywriting and strategy, and this kept going up and up and up and up. And I was enjoying it. I was loving it. And then, it's what kept me going at one stage, because then, the inevitable happened and I ended up as a single parent, but, I had my career and I was doing really what I loved to a point, because as I say, I still had my own writing that I liked to do and my other passions that I had. But, so that was the corporate side of things. And even when I look at that, that is you know, I wouldn't change a thing because it was all education, you
Yep.
know, like
It's the
being able
formation.
to,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And so everything in life is, you know, I believe in sort of integrating everything, all the experiences, even the bad stuff. You've got to learn to sort of sit with it, and because it's still part of you. So
Mm.
yeah,
Mm.
all good.
And so you now have a good blend of your writing and your healing and reading as well. And
Yeah,
that's why you refer to yourself as or describe yourself as a transformational writer. What
yeah,
do you mean? Like I think I get that, but
yeah.
explicitly, what do you mean by a transformational writer?
So if I seem like I'm going off at a tangent, there is a point, honestly. But
Okay,
so
I'll just call you Billy then.
yeah, yes, and he does normally remember at the end of it what he's where he was going.
An hour later.
So,
Anyway, sorry.
so, so basically, there was a lot of stuff going on in my life. Basically, the last 10 years have been the most calm and amazing. No real drama in my life, but probably up until about 10 years ago, you know, pretty much anything, any of that big stuff that you imagine, you know, happens in my life. And I used to think, oh, did I attract it? Or, you know, it just seemed to be that it was big stuff happening to me and stuff that, you know, could pretty much crush you if you sort of let it. And I always had this, I was always very lucky, don't get me wrong. I had amazing friends and always had someone that even if I felt on my own at moments, I always had a really good friend or someone that was there with me, you know. And so I realized at one point, look, why are all these things happening? And I thought, well, obviously, I am meant to help other people. You know, this is like a training ground that I have all these experiences that you could potentially be quite judgmental about, you know,
Yeah.
or have an opinion about, let's just say, you know, and until it happens to you, you don't know how you're going to react, or you think you would behave a certain way. So I was having a lot of these experiences and I just thought, right, okay, well, I'm not letting these things define me, and I'm going to help people. And I thought I was going to write books that would help people through these really big things. And as you can probably appreciate with a Scottish background, there was a real emphasis in my life, I think, of, you know, so there's the religious aspect, and then, you know, being a good person. And obviously, if this happens, you're either a good or bad person. And I really kind of struggled with that concept as I was growing up, because I did believe that, you know, bad people could do good things and good people could do bad things, you know, and I was really trying to work out where I was with all that. So so I thought, yeah, okay, so I'll write books that help people. But what I didn't realize was, even, and I only know this in retrospect, that I wrote from the earliest age. And sometimes I would write and think, wow, I didn't know I thought that until I saw it. And so then writing became, I didn't realize I was also using it as a therapy. There's lots of different strings to the writing that I do, but I was also using it to help myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that.
Right.
And it's one of the things that I love about writing is that, particularly people who feel they don't have a voice, you know, or something. Imagine a child that has experienced trauma and they can't verbalize it. But if you give them something like art, which I love color. Color is I can't draw for toffee, but I love color. But if you give a child or anyone something creative like art or writing, gradually they become in touch with that thing that's inside, and they can give it, they can bring it out into the open, you know, they can give it form by using certain words and or a color, you know, and that's how expressive therapies work. So that was one of the things that I discovered, that when I was writing as a child and a teenager, it made sense of the things going on in my head or the things going on around me. So I guess I knew that back then, and then forgot that it did that for me. Because I got, caught up in the corporate world, I got caught up in all the other stuff. And then thinking of the books I was going to write and, to help people. And then it occurred to me that actually, maybe it's about helping people write, their story, or tapping into, I mean, it doesn't have to be a painful thing or a bad thing, just something in their life, tapping into it and getting more information on it. And you find them as you write, the thoughts, it's like unraveling a wool, as soon as you start, it's come out, and you're writing, hurriedly writing. So and also with ghostwriting, the book that you mentioned earlier, Peter's book, that I realized with that, it wasn't, the healing process went way beyond even the writer or the storyteller. It had, particularly with memoir, it has ramifications to everyone in that story. So there's more opportunity on a wider level then to do a bit of healing and transformation, and you can pause and take the time to do that, or brush over it, it's up to you, but the writing is there to help you do that. So I suppose that's what I mean, by transformational writing, because you can actually use writing even if you've never written in your life. We're not talking about, that it has to be technically correct. It could just be a bleh on the page, and that can help, and non-judgmental. That's the other, everything's with sort of compassion, but then structured, so that you're really getting to the core of where that feeling's coming from, or that thing's coming from. Even if you can't verbalize it, you can write it much more easily. So transformationally, I think if people are writing a memoir, as an example, it can be any piece of writing, that's an opportunity to tap into soul truth or a memory and explore it and transform it. If there's resistance and you think, oh, I can't write that, well, why can't you write it? Well, I don't want people to know that thing, or because someone's still alive that it might hurt, and that kind of thing. So then you've got to sit with that and think, well, why does that? Because it's your truth. So why does that bother you? And a lot of times it's because you don't want to hurt someone, but if it's done with love, or you write it in a way that no one else needs to see it, but you still have the healing, and then, in time, if you feel brave enough to share it, then that's another step and another step, so that's the transformation part.
I was just going to say the same. That's the transformation. Yeah. Wow. And where does the Akashic Records come into that?
So the Akashic Records can be used in its own right as a, you can use it for anything you want, with a client, or just basically tapping into information, but you can use it creatively. And that's something that I'd really like to develop a bit further in some workshops or one-to-one settings, I think, is that once you open the records, so there's like a ritual or a ceremony, and I do it purely because I enjoy the ritual of something, because it puts you in that headspace or that mindset. So you open the records, and you don't have to be lying on the treatment couch, with your eyes closed, going, oh, really concentrating. It's not about that. It's just about, you go around your normal day, but being aware that you are in the records, and you must always close them. And you can ask for information while those records are open, and then just sit with a pen and just ask for, what's in there that needs to come through, either for the greater good, for mass consciousness. Is there a huge message out there waiting to come through? or is there just a piece of creative work that, you know, you feel inspired to write? So you can, you know, you can access anything basically in the records and just sit and write it, and use it as a creative tool. So, you know, when you're in a writing workshop situation, you can ask people to meditate, you know, because often when people get, you know, like a creative block, you know, and they're going, oh, right, well, just don't force it, just meditate or go out in the garden, do something to break that energy, you know, because it's a block in energy and it's a fear. Often when we have a block,
yeah,
creative writing, it's just fear. So as soon as you realize that and you think, well, no one's going to read it anyway, and that is sometimes just enough just to change the vibration and just allow whatever comes through. And even if you read it and you just think, I have no idea what any of that means, just date it and put it away, but guaranteed you will have shifted that block. You know, you will start writing in whatever it is that you want to apply your mind to, you know, but it would just flow so much more easily. So I really want to get to the stage of, you know, opening the Akashic records and then doing workshops within the records, within that space.
Wow.
And seeing the difference in the flow of energy and writing and the type of information that comes through, you know, before and after sort of thing, so you can see for yourself. Because I think you've got to experience these things to, you know, it's great if someone tells you, like gives you a reading and says, this is this and this will happen. But if you actually are in there and you get that information yourself, that means so much more.
It's powerful. Yeah.
So, and then I guess I've kind of come to the realization that the two things have always run in parallel.
Yes.
And it's even the same with my business, because I, you know, when I left the corporate world and then basically set up my own business, I set up McRae Communications, which was, you know, writing, marketing strategy, blah, blah, blah. And then I had my own writing, and then I had my healing, and I just thought, this is just crazy, like 3 businesses.
Splitting yourself up into 3. Yeah.
And then it was just like, well, you know, where, and just bringing yourself back to, right, where is your passion? And, you know, there's a million copywriters in Sydney, and there are a million marketing specialists out there. What was my unique, you know, thing that I could, and that fed my soul. And I'll just share quickly a really funny thing about how you have to be specific in the record or when you're manifesting.
Yes.
Because I was, so I had McRae Communications and I was quite happy, but I thought, well, you know, I want to now focus on work that is heart-based, you know, so people that have a message to share, people that have a conscience, businesses that have a conscience. So I said, please now just send me heart-focused work, basically. That's what I was putting out to the universe. I kid you not, and I'm thinking, you know, I had totally different projects in mind.
Oh, what's happened?
Company that were developing this catheter thing. Yeah, it was a catheter device.
Oh.
And they were a heart company, and I was like, no, not medical. Like,
for the love of God.
I just thought, wow, this is powerful stuff. I mean, I took the work, of course.
Of course. Well, I did ask for it. I better see it through, but I'll be a little more specific next time.
So, anyway. And so yeah, I got a bit more specific with my what I put out there now, and yeah, and as I say, with the Akashic records and all the learnings, all the knowledge that I had before, it's all come to this perfect point where I feel that even in a healing practice, I mean, I started off doing Reiki, but it's evolved so much, and I think that's we're always evolving, and our vibration has lifted significantly, you know, in the last 30 years. So, and I just think, you know, you have to be prepared to be fluid like that, and move with it. And when you get, you know, when the voice starts to talk to you, kind of thing, of this is go, then, you know, you go with it, you know, because is you, yeah. I used to doubt it, but I don't anymore. So.
And now that you don't doubt it anymore, what difference does that make for you?
It's such gosh, that's actually quite a big question, because
It is, isn't it?
yeah.
I was gonna ask you a leading question. I thought, no.
Yeah. So I'm
Mm.
sure loads of people would relate to this, that especially in sort of spiritual circles, is this thing of credibility, and you know, that it's either or. And I think I touched on that earlier, being good or bad. You know, you're either spiritual and a healer, or you're corporate, you know, or something else. It's like, and there's a certain amount of judgment that we always pile in with whatever it is, you know. Even from a spiritual perspective, you think corporate, oh, money, blah blah blah, and we always have that opinion on each thing, instead of realizing that actually it can all really work together, you know. So what it's given me is, when I actually decided, right, I'm just going to pitch my stall and say who I am, you know, over and above being a writer, I'm amazed at how scared I was to do that. First of all, I'd battled with that for years, that, oh no, you know, people think I'm weird, or, you know, and I want to be seen as a serious writer. And so I always had this battle. And then I just got to the point, you know what, this is who I am. And, you know, I'm not going to please everybody, but I'm sure enough of myself now that I know the experiences I've had are real. They're not, you know, in the early days you think, yeah, you're talking to yourself. Or, you know, you push it all away. But then you find out later that actually that was right, you know. And then you think, right, well, next time I get that, I'm going to trust it. And so it builds, you know.
It builds a muscle.
So, yeah, exactly. So then I remember saying to Mr. P, okay, how do you feel about me setting up a Reiki practice, maybe just having it a day or two a week? If the people are interested, they'll come, you know, but if not, I'm still doing my writing and all the rest of it. But even to say that to him felt like, I felt really vulnerable, like I was opening myself up for something, you know. But he totally said, if that's what you want to do, go for it. And I was like, all right, wow, because he's Mr. Logical, you know. And then I found that, you know, I'm so tentative to start with, and I'm doing a bit of Reiki, and you know, and the amount of support and love that just came my way, and I was like, oh wow, really fantastic. And I was like, God, I waited this long to say that.
Do it.
Island. So I just, that has been me holding me back, you know. And a lot of people would probably relate to that.
Absolutely.
And now I just do it, you know. And I can honestly say that, just do it, because all right, some people might think, oh, you know, that's not their thing, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. What's important is what you're here to do. And, you know, we've all got a mission here, I think. And you will attract your tribe. I know it's overused, but it's so true. You know, your people, you know, like you, you know, and the people that I've met since. It's been amazing. And so to ask how I feel now, I feel free now that I don't have to pretend to be this way or that way. I just am. If that makes sense, you know. I am and I am a healer, and I have my belief system, and they have brought healing and transformation and happiness to my life. And if that's your path as well, then fantastic, you know. And if it's not your path, then, you know, a bit of me will rub off on you, I hope, you know.
That's it. So that you can go off, so that they can go off in another direction and find their true path. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all have different parts to play. So.
And if nothing else, to see that you've followed your path, so that in itself is transformational. Even if I don't agree with, or I'm not drawn to the same path as you, the fact that you follow your path is an inspiration to me to do the same, whatever my path is.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, about things not being what you're aligned with, you know. It's like all the tools of divination, really. You know, people say, well, do you use tarot or runes, or, you know, it's all tapping in to the same place. It's just our way in, you know.
Yep. You know, some people use cards and they don't actually turn them over. They've done all the talking. I've got a couple of friends, they say, oh yeah, I use cards. Oh, there's somewhere else. Hang on. Shuffle them out, you know, lay them out, and they're all still, and then they just start talking. But you haven't turned it over. Oh, I don't need the cards. It's just you need me to need the cards.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And then they turn them over for dramatic effect at the end, because, oh, look.
Yeah, because to be honest, it would still be a bit freaky to sit there and then just start giving you all this information, and you're like, what? Where did that come from? Yeah. So that's basically transformational writing, and it has changed my life, you know, and to be able to share that with people and give them a bit of an education as well, you know, actually about writing, you know, because
well, that leads me to your YouTube videos, actually.
Yeah.
Is that where you were going as well, was it?
Oh no, I was kind of, I must get on to the next one. Yes, that's the thing. I was going to do one of those every week, because, you know, I know what I want to say, but then of course it just got really busy, and for a little while I got stressed about it, because I like to, you know, if I've said I'm going to do something, but then I thought,
turn up,
but then I thought, you know what, it'll come in divine timing. And as it turns out, the next one I'm going to do is about voice, which is actually quite timely with what's going on at the moment. So the YouTube videos actually came about because, well, I'd always wanted to do writing ones, like tutorial type things. So the amount of people that I've had contact me sort of saying, like, there's no real information out there on, okay, you want to write a book, but you know, there's a real sort of push for people to do like an MBA or some, you know, some 4-year whatever course in creative writing. And while that is fantastic, you know, I mean, I would love to do something like that myself, but, you know, money, and you've got to carry on living and all the rest of it. And I just thought, you know, I'd like to be able to share what I know from the blood, sweat and tears, from actually working in the industry and being on lots of different sides of writing. I mean, I don't claim to know everything, but I know enough to get people motivated about actually learning what they need to know to write the story that they want to write. So they're just little bite-sized pieces of information, but then there's always a bit of a healing context to it. I always think it's a bit like, did you get the 2 Ronnies here in Australia?
Oh yes, I grew up on the 2 Ronnies.
So you know how Ronnie Barker sits at the end in his chair and he has a little story at the end, kind of thing. So that's kind of what I do with the little healing sort of context, if you like, at the end of the YouTube videos. If you actually not got bored halfway through and made it to the end bit, you get that little nugget of, you know, the healing.
But wait, there's a story at the end. I promise there'll be something good at the end.
Exactly, there's something good at the end. So it's giving a little inkling as to, you know, even in the planning process, there's opportunities to get in touch with something and heal or explore it a bit further, or just have a different viewpoint on it, rather than thinking, oh, writing a book, you know, that's a big project, and it's a big commitment, but you know, there's learned along the way. So
it's funny, years ago, 20 years ago actually, I was going through some experiences, and my husband, who was a new partner at the time, said to me, oh, you ought to write a story, like write a book about this. I'm going, oh, I don't ever want to revisit this crap ever again.
I know, there's so many. I'm not writing about that. Like,
that's it. That's to be something more fun. Look, you know, and since then, you know, lots of books have come out about that sort of an experience, and but it'll be able to help. But I guess I couldn't get past the idea, well, if I write it, then how am I going to get it out there? It was just all too big.
No, and that's the thing. It becomes, and then there's other people that have come to a project like that and have no idea, you know, they're just not prepared for how big it is. So that kind of is enough to put them off, you know. And so it comes down to your drive. Is it really, you know, you don't have to write a whole book. Why don't you write a short story or a piece of poetry?
Or a pamphlet.
Yeah, exactly. Just on the blackboard. Yeah, that's fine. Then, you know, just get it out.
Instagram post. Oh no, that's lazy, isn't it?
But you know, this little it could help someone in the moment. You know. So, yes. What was that? I don't know what I was talking about now. But,
no, I think I sidetracked you with my story about writing a book, being asked to write a book. But I guess we all, lots of us have moments like that. So wow, I guess that's that idea of looking back on an experience and thinking, goodness, how did I actually get into that? How did that come about? Goodness, how did I actually make it all the way through to the end, and look at where things are going now? I guess that's something that we do as humans anyway, you know, that capacity to go back, to look at, to think through steps, and to think through, gosh, how did we make it through that sort of thing, and then formulate an idea about where to take it from there.
Yeah, but how amazing is that, to sort of look at some of, you know, when you're in the middle of it, the darkest moments of your life, you know, like they call it the dark night of the soul, where you know, you could be literally on your knees, like thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this, you know, or why me, or you know,
the Nine of Swords card.
So we've all been there, you know, for whatever it was for us. But the amazing thing about writing about it is you can sit and go, wow, I came through that. And if I came through that, you know, it sets you up. Being able to document it and actually see what you've overcome in your life, and see from almost outside of yourself, this point in time where you remember feeling so hopeless that you didn't know how you were going to get up the next day, but you got up the next day, or if you didn't, it's okay. Do you know what I mean? So that in itself, to be able to look at that situation, I mean, the in a sort of therapy, like if you were having like counseling or some sort of therapy, they would say that's the evidence that you can survive anything or that situation. And that's, I guess that's where resilience comes in as well. Resilience is such a, you know, a core strength to get through even just what's happening at the moment. If you're resilient, it's not going to it's not that you don't think about it and don't feel it, but your response to it's slightly different, you know, because you know that, well, you've got this far and you survived XYZ. So the writing of it, whether that's in a journal or you know,
in a publication, memoir.
Thing.
Wow. Well, look, I want to go off and do some writing now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because I keep updating my reading profile. I'm not getting any more readings, but I keep updating my reading profile. Like I think it's like things have changed and my perspective changed and my desire, the way I want to work, the way I describe even the way I want to work changes as well, as I sort of either learn something new or get a perspective from some experience or interaction with somebody, or so I think and now I actually keep them. I've been a keeper of things for many years. I actually went to when I was at school, I did modern history, and our history teacher, one of the assignments was for the whole year. It was a really long bloody assignment. We had to keep a newspaper article clipping journal thing, and like you, I went overboard. I've got a big scrapbook like this, and it doesn't close, and I've actually got a ribbon around it to kind of keep it together. So this idea of picking a theme and then sort of journaling it, whether it's either clippings or taking notes and that sort of thing, is or keeping old stories and keeping old flyers. Even just that watching the transformation. This is going to sound a bit silly, but I keep one of every one of my business cards, because you update your business card, and sometimes the little details you forget along the way. But sometimes if I'm clearing out things or moving things, I go, I look, that's right, I used to do that, or that's right, we were there, and oh gosh, I forgot about that venue that we used to work at all the time, and that sort of thing, I think for me, the desire to document history is really, really strong. Been doing that for a long, long time. What am I doing with it? I don't know. Maybe that kind of hasn't come to me yet, but still the desire to keep, I print my own diaries now. Because they're bought ones. I can't get them the way I want them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes. Actually, that's what I consider documenting all the things that people go through, and the way people are reacting to things at the moment. That's something in history that we'll look back on. And and when people are putting their family trees together, it's things like that. You could, as you say, you forget the detail. That take that business card and apply it to your whole life. There's little forget that are like, oh yeah, that's really important, and bring that back to use now, sort of thing. So so maybe there's a big project in you.
Maybe there is. Hang on a sec, I just I didn't realize I hadn't muted my phone, sorry.
That's okay.
Need a checklist for that too. Wow, we've covered a lot today. I think you're really good. I just say hello and go. Look, I guess we've had a couple of these conversations over the little while that we've known each other, but I've really enjoyed having that all in the one place, and I really hope that people who are watching this will be inspired to, at the very least, take some time to do some writing about their own lives, whether for just their own enjoyment or their children or family or beyond, the broader audience, I guess. One of I guess that's something that's unique to us as humans, is that our ability to communicate in the writing, to leave that record, for the future, I guess. And I guess too, one of the things I've found, because I've been diving down the family history rabbit hole on and off, probably since school, really. That's when I first learned about family history, so for 30 years. And one of the things I noticed that there are, things happen and life goes on and history moves on, but there are themes that recur over and over and over and over in people's lives, but we only know that because people write it down. There are records of people, and the social record, and that's it, isn't it? It's a social record. So the things that you think you're alone on or living in solitary confinement around things that you think you're the only person who's had to deal with this particular situation.
Yeah,
and it's so easy to access that information now because we've got access to the internet. You know, thinking about our keywords, you can find people who have experienced the same sorts of things, whether it's in blogs or books or pamphlets or any of that sort of stuff. And it's very powerful for that ability to be able to write that stuff down.
And it comes back to that thing of feeling connected, doesn't it? So you if you do feel alone, you immediately feel connected to that experience, and you know what you've learned from it, or what you can share to help someone else. So you're connecting with someone else. Yeah.
All right. Well, my coffee's gone cold. How's yours? Oh, that's right. I don't know what's in your cup.
It is coffee, honestly.
Oh, that's boring.
Well, you know, I make a rule not to drink before like 6 o'clock in the evening. So, mind you, with all this enforced isolation coming, maybe that'll get a bit earlier in the day. Who knows?
That's it. The relaxation of all the rules that will include 5 o'clock starts. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts and your experience with me and those of you who are watching. And I'll share some links to be able to get in contact with you, Evie, and I'll put that on the video there. And of course, they can find your YouTube videos under Gaia's Light Spiritual Consultancy. Is that right? Or is it something a little bit different?
Yeah, so it's Gaia's Light and then home.
Guiding them home, that's right, yes.
Because I think there's a couple of, like Gaia is quite a big word at the moment.
It is, yes. Who knew?
So yeah, Gaia's Light, guiding you home. And,
yes.
And I'm going to update it next week. That's one of my next projects. So.
Good, good. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting again. Okay. See you, Evie.
Bye.
Bye. Stop recording.